So we are back live on the TPM Summit with the TPM Rich podcast. I'm co-hosting this podcast with Doran together, and we are doing a special podcast now on a lunch podcast and reflecting a little bit on the keynote on your morning. I'm welcoming Aman and Stefan. So like maybe you introduce yourself to the audience. You have been speaking here last year. We met and
Happy to do so. So I'm Bauer. I'm currently a Senior Director of Technical Program Management for Marketing Automation at Salesforce. Prior to that, I've been at various startups and larger companies. So done everything from initial TPM creation all the way up to running at scale with thousands of engineers. Been having a wonderful time at the TPM Summit this year, both the enjoyment of the presentations as well as having enough time to network and stuff has been very, very nice.
Yeah, hello everyone, I'm Stefan. This is my first time at TPM Summit, and it's definitely proving to be very exciting. I've been in the world of tech for over 7 years now. Started on in hospitality tech, e-commerce tech, and now I'm in the exciting world of search and search AI, trying to leverage all of the different tools and dynamic options available to our customers. So I'm with Algolia, 2.5 years now, and it's been a crazy ride.
I mean, talking about a crazy ride, Aman, what have been your key takeaways from Jen's keynote today?
Yeah, so I thought in a nutshell, first off, I absolutely loved the presentation. But what I was thinking about, the key for me was the notion of how do you focus your TPM efforts on the highest value work versus trying to be everything to everybody and burning out. And so I very much took that home and just said, like that laser focus. And one of the things that she said was actually new for me was the notion of letting go. But her let go was a little bit different. We'll talk in a little bit about that. But the notion of even letting go what you feel strongly about is a key thing to say. Like maybe it's not that important, bring it up later. Really interesting.
All right, Stefan, what about you?
For me, similar, the letting go whole aspect. Definitely as TPMs, we always wanted to have perfect Gantt charts, greatly documented information. So when she touched on being able to check in with the actual stakeholders, the people you're trying to share the information with, is this good enough, and actually getting that validation of, yes, this is good, instead of actually driving tons of hours into something that might not be as impactful, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to give a quick debrief. So definitely something I'm going to be taking back. I think it's something that we do inherently, so it's good to kind of just see it on stage and hear from a leader as well.
And reflecting on impact, how do you define like impact for yourself in the day-to-day job? Do you measure it? Do you define it? And how do you measure it in this wild ride? What Stefan said, like in the last 2 years, I think it has been 7 years wild ride, or longer than that. So
Stefan, you want to go first?
Sure. So for me, impact is really about the engineer's well-being. I come from an anthropology background, so being able to understand the human on the other side of the projects that we're working through, making sure that one, they're well, making sure that we have the syncs before the actual getting to business options, being able to just have that drive of this is where we're going, check-ins, making sure that the trajectory is well charted out, and at the end of the day, it's just making sure that the continuous impact to the customer is there, as for this whole company's strive for.
And the way I look at it is first off qualitative. So initially just trying to get everything organized and looking at just what are people's perceptions. Are we doing better? Are we delivering on time? Then get more and more quantitative. So as you get to execute, you have the execution going. Now, how do we optimize? How do we take that retro and sprint review feedback in, make some changes? Also, like always looking at how we measure ourselves as well and saying what are the value the TPMs are delivering as well, and how do we continuously improve that as well.
Yeah, I'm not only in a very comfortable spot, I would say. So I reflected a bit. Stefan, you already like had your speech. Like you need to head out in a few minutes. So Stefan, like, can you recap on your speech? Like, how was it being on stage? Like, Aman has been last year, and I was like also presenting last year. I think it's like a different uncomfortable situation. How did you feel about your speech and what was it about?
So my speech was all about the tribal heartbeat, decoding engineer culture. It's a very close and dear subject for me, coming from anthropology. Being able to kind of highlight the team dynamics and all of the things that we can do as TPMs, leveraging these anthropological methods. I think definitely the minutes leading up to getting on stage are the most nerve-wracking. You're kind of like, okay, I'm going on there, I'm gonna give it my all. And I think having heard Jen speak, like actual presentation on letting go, I had to kind of just rescind myself to let go, just you know what you're gonna talk about, get on stage, have fun, and yeah, just contribute your little grain of sand to the takeaways for everybody today.
I think let go and impact. So it's a little bit like of a journey. So maybe one follow-up question on culture. Like you have also worked like at some companies. So is it same or same old, or is it different every time?
So I think definitely the most influential thing is where the teams that you're working with are from. So I'm in a fortunate position where I'm working with a French company. I have 3 engineers in Paris, and then I have 3 other great guys here in the US, but they're scattered. So I have South Carolina, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. So really it's just a matter of trying to come together, and of course European mindsets and American mindsets are very different. So making sure that we have a consensus and a meeting point where we can kind of share ideas, level set, and work together to kind of continue contributing to the overall goals and objectives of the company is important. But I think, like I mentioned in my talk, everybody's doing Scrum methodologies for the most part, Agile. It's just fine tuning it to how it best suits your teams. Everybody says there's an Agile framework, but it's meant to actually empower and unblock your team. So don't be afraid to kind of like stray off the normal path and actually make it actually like contribution wise impactful for your team.
I mean, I'm on Tricky Spot. You're going on stage. Like Harman was also here before in the podcast. What would you like reveal now, like being live online, to tune in?
Oh yeah, so we can do a little bit of pitch for the panel coming
Yeah.
up. So we have an awesome panel starting in about 5 minutes. Starting at no,
We have time.
we got time, which is great. So it's a great panel of diverse panelists. So you have Kenny, who's a TPM over at OpenAI. You have Priya, who is a distinguished TPM at NVIDIA. She just started over there. You've got Harman, who's a seasoned TPM leader, and Kevin also over at Cruise. Oh, sorry, Waymo. Sorry about that. Who is also a seasoned leader. So you have everything from TPM leaders to individual contributors, and we'll be talking through how AI and the different technology transformations have impacted the TPM craft, and try to get some lessons learned and some good stories to resonate on.
Yeah. So just for the audience, like if we drop like company names, it's not that they are sponsoring you. It's just like we heard like literally in the morning like all company names, which was also great to see. So feel free like to drop further like which companies are there, because like this is also a little bit like the community spirit, and talking about the community. So Man, you know that, and I remember like last year we after the summit, like you took me on to the after dinner, was with quite a good talk, like how was like how do you see the change like from the summit last year influencing the community, what has happened in the last 12 months, like how do you feel about this?
Yeah, it's really interesting to look at. So if you think about last year, for example, it was great because it was the first time ever.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting just to get this many TPMs in a room together. It was just amazing. And they have some of the in-depth conversation that we had in the car. You can really go deep on a topic with an individual, which is great. But on the flip side, the schedule was so packed that you almost didn't have time during the conference.
Yeah.
And so one of the key key changes they've made is let's leave a couple of minutes in between the sessions, and that's allowed that somebody says hello, you can stop and talk, go a little deep into what each of you are doing, what are some of the things you're passionate about, or what are some of the things you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do a little bit of mentoring on the side, which is kind of fun. So really enjoying it. And the top of the content this year, I know we both presented last time, but the content this year seems to be going up a level, and so it's great to see.
I think like there was a lot of let go earlier. We were talking because everyone was like nervous. It was first time. We spoke potentially about a topic like no one spoke about, or others have spoken about like outside of the summit. So first time being like, what is your mindset? When did you like get to know about the community, about the summit? Like, walk us through this.
Yeah, so I guess it's a fair point to say we can't let go of letting go. So it's how important of a topic it was. So I found out about the summit actually in June. I was just coming off of the conference high for some of my engineers. I went to Plato Elevate actually here in San Francisco, and after that I was kind of just like getting ready to board a plane. I was like, you know what, there must be some things for TPMs out there, even if it's for product managers. I think I could still go and learn something from that. Not to say that engineering conferences aren't fun, but at the same time there's a lot of topics that don't really relate to what I'm doing on my day-to-day. At Algolia we have 3 TPMs and 2 of them are actually in London, so we have enough of an overlap during our day-to-day, but it's not like we have an actual structure that lets us sync and get these inspirations that I'm gathering from here actually. And yeah, so as I signed up, I bought my ticket. All I did was tell my boss, hey, I'm going to this. He was on board. And then I was like, you know what, I think I want to actually do a talk. And I submitted my call for paper. I wasn't expecting that I was actually get chosen for it, but here we are. I did my talk, and it was a great way to start TPM Summit and my exposure to the community.
Yeah. This was also like what happened to me. Like, so I was just like getting to know about it, and then submitting it, then got it, and then I think I was like one of the few European guys there, and I still and that's not folks like because I spoke at 3. This was my only wish for the conference because it was my wife's birthday with a 9-hour time difference that everyone can sing on stage. But coming back to the TPM topic, I think like everyone is collecting memories, and which top 2 advices would you give like TPMs that are starting their career or like are very advanced like you, Aman, or Stefan, or even like Harman, like a senior director? Like which top 2 advices would you give like every TPM along when boarding the plane home or taking the Tesla or the Waymo or the cruise?
Yeah, so for me, first thing is a notion of empathy. So if you can think about all of your stakeholders or your teammates and what they're thinking, how they're approaching things, and first off, between you and them, build it in both directions. But then also you can start to translate that across, and that helps reduce the friction across teams tremendously. And so when you can get that kind of alignment, so you start maybe first functionally, and so getting it across, say, engineering, product, design, but then you can do the same going vertically as well. And so if you can get the notion of what is that executive looking for, and how do I explain it to an engineer, and vice versa. How can I explain to an executive what an engineer is going through? And then you quantify, you bring that into your status reporting, and you bring that into your day-to-day interactions. It starts to build trust with the people, which is my other key point, is once you start to build that trust, the conversations become more honest, and so you can start to get deeper into what are the real things that are happening versus, what does Jira say? And so then you can start to really solve the big problems, and people start to respect that. And they'll also be willing to take a little honest feedback back and say, okay, we've had the same problem before. Why? What do we have to do? And people are more open to it, and it allows, because I know you're coming from a place of how do we make everything better.
Top 2 from your side?
Yeah, from my end is maintaining that sense of curiosity. Obviously, it's super important when you're just joining new teams or new organizations or companies. Just being open and candid about actually acknowledging what you don't know to get to a position where you can then give answers, be that key point of contact for your teams. And then the next thing would be just embracing the the nature of TPMing, which is a role that really evolves as your programs, as your projects do kind of like enter the execution stage. I always kind of joke with my team, and I'm like, I'm the bodyguard for the engineers because the business is going to do what the business needs. So we just need to be that mediator, that translator for this is what we can do. This is how we can try to break it down and meet some of the expectations while still keeping in mind that empathy with the engineers of like, hey, I'm here for you. And as long as you can prove to them that you're willing to go to bat for them, you have the support you need.
I think we'll be interesting talking next year, like about quarterback, bodyguard, different types of archetypes. So, with that, like we know Aman needs to go. Stefan wants to enjoy his afternoon, listening to some talks.
Yes,
And
definitely.
thank you both for joining, and thank you all for tuning in. And we are back at 1:30 with another legend of the TPM community, James. He's done some good stuff with the newsletter. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you, Aman, and have a great afternoon. Time flies.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh, the chair was off.
No worries. Can you take a picture?
All right. That'd be awesome.
My favorite chair.
Thank you.
All right. You enjoyed it?
Yeah, dude, thank you.
Enjoy the panel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we can.